If I could pull the Saquon Barkley backflip right now, oh, you
knuckles and picks up the first down.
But the Philadelphia Eagles are the Super Bowl champions. Congrats, Eagles fans. It was a great season. The Saquon Barkley, that defense, you name it. It was just Jalen Hurts getting the comeback story. No more confetti pictures and all those sort of things. Can't believe the season's over.
I can't believe.
Yeah, that too. I can't believe it's not butter. But yo, we got a 2-round mock draft today. We're going to be popping up here and seeing an end of the season draft with the full set draft order for the first 2 rounds is now official. So let's get official and get right into it and start the draft machine over here at PFF off. And with the Tennessee Titans at number 1, I hear rumors, oh, do they want to trade down? They might, and I think there's a really good chance that they will in the actual draft. It's just going to come down to what do they do in free agency? How does the new GM Mike Borgonzi see the whole scenario, the landscape, the big picture? That's really what's important here because this Tennessee Titans team, they got a lot of things that they got to figure out. Now, if I'm sticking and picking here, though, if we can't find a trade partner, even though the Giants seem like the most obvious candidate, the obvious choice, I just personally struggle to trade up in drafts in this one to give up like a future first rounder and things like that for a quarterback in this class. Even though Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, very interesting prospects. Could they end up being franchise quarterbacks? Absolutely. But for me at number 1, I'm just sticking and picking here. I'm going with the best player maybe in this draft. You could argue him and Travis Hunter. It's 1A, 1B. Do you want an edge rusher? Do you want a corner/hybrid playmaking receiver? Those are all things you have to consider. But for this Tennessee Titans team, they need a number 1 pass rusher. Harold Landry going in the final year of his contract. Arden Key going in the last year of his contract. Plus, not just that, they need some more juice off the edge. I love Abdul Carter. Slam him right in there to Tennessee. Music all day to my ears. Then we go on to number 2 in the Cleveland Browns. I'm also not going quarterback here as much as I could see them going quarterback, but maybe they get a Kirk Cousins in free agency after he gets cut. I'm going Travis Hunter, the second best over your hype. He's my number 1 player in the class. Him and Abdul Carter, 1, 2. It's such a difficult decision on who you go with. It's just really who is the best on the board, who is available. Travis Hunter's on the board. I'm running that to the table. They could use another cornerback too. They need help in that secondary. Emerson struggled this season. Newsome struggled this season. Not to mention, they could use another playmaker. Elijah Moore is a free agent. So why not get Travis Hunter? I think it's a perfect fit for Andrew Berry. They're going to need more help on that defense with Myles Garrett wanting to go out the door. Of course, they could go after a pass rusher. Abdul Carter is off the board, though, and I wouldn't go after anybody else except for Travis Hunter or a quarterback at the number 2 overall spot. And then at number 3, the New York Giants. Yes, they luck right in. We're taking Cam Ward, not needing to think about this one. Let's go straight out to the point. Let's get a franchise quarterback. Will Cam Ward be that? It's up in the air, just like any quarterback. And absolutely, Cam Ward has all the tools. He's got all the talent. He's gotten better and better each and every season. Get the decision-making issues out of there. Brian Dable, if there's anybody that can hone some of that to Lily, then hopefully Brian Dable and his coaching staff can help out in that regard. They give him the keys to the ignition. You got some playmakers with Malik Neighbors. Who's your neighbor? That was no Arnold Schwarzenegger this year. We're my neighbor. But we go on to the New England Patriots at number 4. I'm going McMillan, Tetairoa McMillan. I shocked everybody last week going Luther Burden. I stand by it. I really do. I like Luther Burden. I'm trying to be a little more realistic here, even though it's going to get crazy here in a little bit, I promise. But, hey, it wouldn't be crazy if it weren't a mock draft. But Tetairoa McMillan gives him a true number 1 wide receiver on the outside. And what if they sign a Ronnie Stanley? I think they're going to be in a prime position to get a guy like Ronnie Stanley in the offseason to be able to give him the money to do so. And then on to number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another pick that just screams, do it right now. Pick it. Just do it, right? We got Nike advertisements. Maybe Will Johnson will get a Nike advertisement. And they need more secondary help. Ronald Darby, still under contract, but you need help in that department. You need to upgrade. You need somebody in there long haul. And you go ahead, you pair him up there with Tyson Campbell on the outside. And Jerrion Jones in the slot. Number 6, though, the Raiders. We're going Shedeur Sanders. Keep him over where it just seems like the perfect landing spot for him. They've already talked about a Dion. They say, hey, let's go to Vegas. Let's bring up the bright lights here. Nice warm climate. Lock him in there for your new GM, new head coach. Pete Carroll gets himself that quarterback on to it'd be an interesting one if they actually do quarterback. I don't know. It's definitely going to be one we continue to explore throughout this process. The New York Jets, though, just said Aaron Rodgers, we're seeing you later. Bye, bye, bye. And look, I wish Aaron Rodgers the best. I really do. I love Aaron, and There's some things you can talk about, the whole darkness stuff. Right now, as a Jets fan, I feel like I'm in darkness, even though it is bright outside today. I look like a vampire out here. Give me the garlic. But hey, wish him the best, and we got to figure this out, right? I mean, we need some youth in this room. We need guys that want to play in New York. That's the big thing. And for me personally, if there's one thing that Aaron Glenn has learned, it starts with the trenches, baby. And it starts with getting some guys up front on both sides of the ball. I'm going to go get Will Campbell. I go Mason Graham every single week, and I love Mason Graham. I think he's a fantastic pick there. But what are other areas they could go with? What if they go get their own Taylor Decker here and go have bookend tackles? Do what the Detroit Lions did. Get Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell. That combo and that offensive line has been a key driver to the success for the Detroit Lions. So now you go get Olu Fashanu in the last draft. You get Will Campbell in this draft, who I think is just a blue chip level talent. And he may not be like a high-end top. I don't see him as a top 10 tackle in the NFL. I see him as similar to like Taylor Decker, just a continued solid tackle in the NFL. Somebody that is a reliable starter. You plug him over right tackle where he played at high school. And it's just mwah for me and the Jets. That's what I'm looking at. Carolina, they say we're racing this one to the board. We're going Mason Graham, whether it's edge rusher, whether it's interior. They just need help on that defensive line. They need pass rushers and they need hordes of them. So we go get Mason Graham, Derek Brown coming back next season. You still got Ashawn Robinson, Chai Shuttle under contract for another season, but I am just going BPA on the board. Mason Graham pseudos that pass rushing on the interior and get an edge rusher in free. Go pick up Josh Sweat if you can, if you want to go to Carolina. We'll see. But anyway, go pick up somebody in free agency off the edge. On to the New Orleans Saints at number 9. The new emphasis on this because now you're going to have a new coach. Kellen Moore, is it? I don't even know. It may be official by the time this even gets posted. But what has Kellen Moore seen over there in Philadelphia that's worked so well? Trenches, and they go and get some more offensive line help. They've been constantly looking to make this offensive line steady for season in, season out. I'm going to do that here with Josh Simmons, tackle from the Ohio State University. Plug him into one of those positions. I don't care. You name it, whether it's a left guard position, whether it's a left tackle, you can move Fuaga back over to right tackle. You can keep Fuaga at left tackle, move Simmons over to right tackle. He has experience at right tackle at the San Diego State days. So I'm just trying to find the best offensive line out here. Penny can move inside the guard. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, I want to continue to improve their trenches because once Eric McCoy went down too, that was a problem. But their offensive line's been shaky through the years. Let's go on to the Bears at number 10, and I'm also going to go offensive line. I know Ashton Jeanty would be a fun pick. I think that's a very realistic pick as well. However, I'm going offensive line here for the Chicago Bears. I'm going to go fill a big need with Kelvin Banks Jr., plug him in at left guard. He could be the long-term left tackle, depending on how things work out. Braxton Jones or Karan Amagaji. Those are guys to watch out for development with Amagaji, but Banks comes in, slides in at left guard, and fills a big void if you lose Tevin Jenkins in the offseason or even at the right guard position. It'd be an upgrade there over there, Matt Pryor. On to the 49ers here at number 11. We're also going to go offensive line. Woo, the run on offensive linemen, they're flying here. They got some good athletes. And speaking of a good athlete, Josh Connolly Jr., the Oregon tackle. I'm a huge fan of Connolly. I know this is going to be way higher than what you see Josh Connolly mocked, and he probably will not go this high in the actual draft. He's more ranged along the 20s to 30s. He's a my guy, so hey, this is what it is. It may not be the most realistic thing as I talked about earlier, but I think Connolly, such an athletic guy. You move him over to right tackle. I'm fine with that. I have no problems. I know he didn't play right tackle. However, I think he certainly, with the right development, can play over there for Colton McKivitz, move him inside. Or even long-term, you got to start thinking about that position with Trent Williams getting a little bit older. So Connolly certainly gives you that next tackle in line for this team. On to the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I know, Ashton Jeanty, the smagrim, but I am so happy to get Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty is just... he's a dog, man, and somebody that I think is going to come right in, be a number 1 running back, give you receiving capability. Obviously, him as a runner was not even questioned. He is one of the best runners that I've seen come out in college in a very long time since Bijan. I mean, that wasn't that long ago, but I think he might even be better. And Bijan has been an absolute beast. He's already a top 5 running back in the NFL. Ashton Jeanty, I think, certainly can be right there. Cowboys need some more running back help, even if you bring back Rico Dowdle. Number 13, the Miami Dolphins. I'm also going offensive line here. The offensive line run continues because they need help in that department in a big way. And I'm going to go get a offensive lineman from Missouri, Armen Mbu, the offensive tackle at Missouri. You move him inside the guard at the next level, whether it's right guard or left guard. They have an immediate need at left guard. We'll see about Robert Jones, whether he's re-signed, I believe is a restricted, so he should be back. But anyway, go ahead and improve that interior. It's been a big problem. Armin Embu's athletic. He can fill in there, Mike McDaniel. And here's another pick that you're just going to see over and over again. I'm sorry, Colts fans, but I'm not sorry at the same time. Tyler Warren, on and off the field, I just don't know if there's a whole ton of knocks other than is he an elite athlete? Is he a Brock Bowers level of athlete? No. But he is just an unbelievable player. You're getting a guy that's going to work really hard. Everything I've heard about Tyler Warren, this guy's a gamer. He loves football through and through. High floor dude. They need a tight end in the room that's going to give him a lot more upside in Shane Steichen's scheme that utilizes those tight ends. On to the Falcons here at number 15. And hey, we're going to go get one of these pass rushers who have fallen right into our lap. Thank you so much. Let's go get James Pierce Jr. Mike Green would be excellent too. I go back and forth on those guys. Really, I think the traits-wise, Pierce has a little bit of an advantage over Mike Green. I think Green's tape, though, is better. So it just comes down to what are you looking at here? Do you want to go with a little bit more production, more vibes with the tape right now, or do you want to go with more of those traits? Even though the tape is still solid with James Pierce Jr., you just worry a little bit more on those early downs. The Falcons, though, they need more pass rush. Pierce is going to help them out tremendously. He's got incredible length as well. On to the, Mike Green's not going to fall very far because the Arizona Cardinals are going to go snatch him here at number 16. Go get a mean, bugging machine off the edge. They certainly could use more help there. It will depend on what happens because there is a really good chance that Baron Browner does get re-signed for them. You got Zaven Collins, you got B.J. Ojolari coming back, so the landscape could very much change depending on what they decide to do there. However, it is too early to tell, and I think Mike Green is arguably BPA on the board right now to just snag him and get yourself a really, really good pass rusher. And he's a perfect scheme fit for what they want to do there in that 3-4 that can drop back into coverage. I've seen him do it as well. On to the Cincinnati Bengals at number 17. And the Bengals, I go Malachi Starks every week, so that's what I do, right?
Wrong.
I'm going to shake it up this week. I'm going with a different secondary player, which they need his secondary up. There's no doubt in my mind. But I'm going to go with a familiar face for Al Golden, the new defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Benjamin Morrison's going to be the pick here. Lock him into that secondary. And yes, you have a lot of young players. And this is not a pick that I'm going to do every single week because I do feel like you got Daxton Hill. You've got Cam Taylor-Britt. He had a rough season. We shall see. He would get traded in this case scenario more than likely. I still think that there's a lot of talent with Cam Taylor-Britt. I just feel like he had a bad season, and maybe Al Golden can get the best out of Cam Taylor-Britt this next year. So that's something to monitor and continue to watch out. Of course, you got DJ Turner in there as well. I'm not saying they can't add a young player in. I think Benjamin Morrison is a top 10 player in the class. If it weren't for the injuries, I would take him over Will Johnson. So that's where I'm at right now. And Al Golden being the defensive coordinator, why not do the little surprise Notre Dame, let's go, Golden Domer, bring on it. But it is what it is. And I think he'd be a great addition for their secondary, somebody that can come in and play that man coverage that Al Golden's probably going to play a little bit more of. And then we go on to the Seattle Seahawks at number 18. And Seattle Seahawks, they need offensive line, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go get Greg Zabel. He's been one of the biggest offseason risers in this whole process with the Senior Bowl, the way he moves, his power profile is, he didn't lose a whole ton of reps at the Senior Bowl. Like, he almost dominated every single time. He was exceptional. You don't find that very often. You go back to the guys like Quinn Miners and Zach Martin, guys like that who have dominated the Senior Bowl. I think Greg Zabel could be in the next line for that. So let's go ahead and get somebody that could play center, play guard for them, whether it's an upgrade from Oluwatimi or just filling in at that left guard position for the long haul, because they certainly could use an area with Leighton Tomlinson being a free agent. That interior has been rocky. On to the Bucks at number 19 and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Couple areas that they could go. But here, I'm going to add another pass rusher into the room. I'm going to go get Mikael Williams from Georgia. I'm a big fan of Chris Braswell, their second-round pick from Alabama in this past draft, and Yaya Diaby. So it's not a huge spot that I say you have to force. They could get a free agent in here too, but let's say they don't. And also with where they're picking, the value right now screams one of these edge rushers. So, and Mikael Williams, a guy that could also play a little inside, give you a little Logan Hall versatility. Shamar Stewart would be an interesting option too, if they're going to look for somebody like that. But I do think Mikael Williams can be a Travon Walker for this defense, and Todd Bowles getting somebody that can play on the outside, can also rush on the inside on packages. So that way you're getting Yaya Diaby and Chris Braswell out there at the same time as Mikael Williams and doing all these different rush packages. So it wouldn't stop me. At the same time, I'm really excited to see Chris Braswell in the year number 2. I do think he'll take a big leap. Let's continue to add more pass rush because it's been something they need to improve upon. And you got some monsters in the middle, but you need some more monsters on the edge. And then on to the Denver Broncos. I'm going to go different, even though this is something that you look at the tight end room here, you look at areas that they could go after. I still think you go best playmaker available for Bo Nix. Luther Burden is on the board. This would be a run to the card. And Luther Burden, to me, is a top 10 type of player in this class. He's one of those dudes that is just so talented from an athleticism standpoint. And yes, he had a down season, but Brady Cook had a really down season. He was super injured this year. They were not the same offense. I think that Luther Burden is going to be a menace, a DJ Moore type of playmaker for whoever drafts him. He has a very similar skill set to him. He's going to be that vertical ball winner. He's dangerous with the ball in his hands. Just a huge fan of him and what he can be. I think his upside is higher than Tetairoa McMillan's even. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers here at number 21. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I am also going to be looking at drafting some help. But this time, I'm going to add some more help on the defense side of the ball. Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan is going to be another big name that continues to be talked about. We get into the combine period. Obviously, the Senior Bowl, he was a big riser there, showing off his burst, his athleticism. The Pittsburgh Steelers, you pair him up there on that defensive interior with Larry Ogunjobi possibly out the door. You're bringing him with Keanu Benton, Cam Hayward, and at Hayward, you want to make sure you keep him in a good rotation. Walter Nolan adds to that defensive line, which they prioritize so much there for the Steeler front. On to the Los Angeles Chargers here at number 22. Another area that I think they need to address in a major way is that interior of the defensive line. You got a lot of question marks, a lot of free agents. I do think Poona Ford will be back, but I do want to make sure we add some more help there. Kenneth Grant is a monster, pun intended. He is a legit force on the interior of Michigan, and who better know about Kenneth Grant than Jim Harbaugh? The Michigan Wolverine connections in full effect out here. God, do it, man. You know it has to be done. On to number 23, the Green Bay Packers. And the Green Bay Packers, what are they going to do? Well, hey, I'm just going to go and add some more help to that defensive line. Shamar Stewart, he is a Green Bay Packer if I've ever seen a Green Bay Packer. Brian Gutekunst, just seeing him right now at the Senior Bowl, I'm like, oh, man, that's Rashawn Gary 2.0 for us. I mean, literally, he does have some traits of Rashawn Gary, so I could totally see that. With his athleticism, at his size, he could even lose another 10 pounds, get more athletic and more nimble than he already is. But, hey, I think he just sticks where he is, continue that muscle mass, and get stronger and stronger, be a dynamic edge rusher for them, and Jeff Hafley helping in a welcoming addition. They do need more pass rushers on that defensive line. Just not enough continual pressure this season. On to the Minnesota Vikings here at number 24 overall. And the Vikings, skull. They need some secondary help. So that's what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to add a cornerback, a big cornerback with some size presence. Azaria Thomas, the Florida State corner, which currently they need some help there. Griffin and Gilmore both being free agents. You got Murphy, who can play inside out, but who's going to be that guy that can cover some size? That's going to be Azaria Thomas here. 6'1", 191, give you that presence. For Brian Flores on the outside, and on to the Houston Texans here at number 25 overall. Houston, well, I think Houston's in a lot of different areas that they could go after, but I'm going to go get a playmaker for them. Really, one of the biggest issues that I found for this team, besides the offensive line, especially on the offense side of the ball, was the lack of playmakers throughout the season. A lot of injury. Whether or not Diggs will be back, that's going to be a question we keep an eye on. Yeah, he said he wants to be back, but even if he is, he's coming off an ACL tear. Tank Dill probably, unfortunately, going to be out for the entirety of the season, or at least 3/4 of the season. So I'm going to go ahead and make a Buka in here, and I think he's a really good value at number 25 overall, and he's going to slide right in and fill one of those wide receiver voids. On to number 28 in the Los Angeles Rams. That's another area that they could see them going after a playmaker, but I am going to go secondary. I still lean towards going after a cornerback over a wide receiver. However, wide receiver is very much in play. I think Matthew Golden would be a great pick too for them. However, I'm also going to look for somebody with some size on the perimeter, right? You got Colby Durant, and I think Durant's a little bit of an underrated cornerback in the NFL. It's just who's going to cover some guys with more size. They've got Ahkello Witherspoon in there, but they've kind of been asking Durant to do that, and he does get mossed at times. Like, that's not going to be his strength. Why don't we just go get a guy like Siobhan Revel, who's going to bring that size, that physical demeanor, he's going to be able to take on those big wide receivers. And you let Colby Durant cover the smaller receivers on the outside. And I think that would be a really good 1-2 punch for their secondary. Continue to build their defense, which has been a huge improvement. That's kind of the feast of resistance. And then on to the Baltimore Ravens at 27. And I think it's going to be a matter of time before Marcus Williams gets cut. And you got Ardarius Washington, who played well at safety. They could possibly draft Malachi Starks here and move Ardarius Washington back in the slot / play Kyle Hamilton more in a hybrid role that they have. So I think Malachi Starks would be a fantastic pick for them. He does fall in this draft, but Malachi Starks, I do think the tape was a bit of a setback this year and maybe a little bit overhyped. He is still a very good player, but I do think 27 is more or less where I feel confident in the 20s range rather than the top 20. That is just a little bit rich for me. I think 27 is a really good value, Malachi Starks. The Ravens are going to know how to best utilize him. You get a ton of versatile pieces in the back end. On to number 28, the Detroit Lions. They could use another edge rusher. They could use more offensive line, maybe even a linebacker. Anzalone saying thank you for Detroit, which who knows, maybe that's a possible release. We're going to go somewhere different, though. Oh, I'm not even going to spoil it. I'm just going to let you watch and pick the team. And yeah, now you probably know where we're going. Let's go and select the player here. It's going to be Myles Garrett, edge rusher for the Cleveland Browns. He's going to go from Cleveland to Detroit to Canton. How about we do that? And the cost, though, here is going to be a little interesting. Oh, yeah, they don't have to give up any picks. It's going to be 28. We're going to throw in the comp pick that Detroit has this year. So it's going to be that pick 101. Plus, it's going to be, it may have to be a future first round pick, but we'll do a second future pick. So it's going to be this year third round pick and a next year second pick plus a first year this one. So it's 3 picks. We're going to force that through for Detroit to be able to get Myles Garrett, to pair him along with Aiden Hutchinson. He wants to go to a team that can win, and it's also relatively close to home for Myles Garrett, so it's not like it's that far of a travel for him. And now the Cleveland Browns are in full rebuild mode. And when they're in full rebuild mode, the way I'm looking at this, let's try to add as much talent as we can to this roster. And we're going to do that by adding in more offensive line protection. Ariante Ursary. I had to find him here. I'm like, where is Ariante Ursary? But we're going to take Ariante Ursary. He's going to be a big-time addition to their offensive line, whether it's left guard, whether it's left tackle. That's kind of the way that I see this. Now, Ursary is a guy that is very, very interesting because whether he plays tackle or guard, he's going to be a force in the run game that they really don't have right now, and they've really taken a step back between Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio. Bitonio may end up retiring, especially if they're in rebuild mode. So I want to make sure we're ramping up this offensive line. Ursary is going to be able to help fill that void. He comes from a very zone-heavy offense, too, so he'll be right at home for Kevin Stefanski and this offensive line. Then we go on to the Commanders at number 29 overall, and they probably wouldn't be happy with the Myles Garrett trade, too. And that's okay. I'm going to go different, though. I'm going to go with a pass catcher. I'm going to go Matthew Golden. I feel like he's the last first-round type of wide receiver at this point on the board. Matthew Golden, the way he moves, his route running ability is going to really help them out. Add another playmaker besides Scary Terry. And yeah, you got guys stepping up at the end of the season like Diami Brown and Omalad Zaccheaus. However, long haul, I do think they still need to add some more juice in for Jaden Daniels. Number 30 here for the Buffalo Bills. I am going to add some more help on the defensive line. And a guy that I think would be a great developmental dude on their defensive line would be someone like Jack Sawyer or Tylee Williams or Nick Scorton. Getting one of those defensive linemen would really help them out. But at the same time, I also really like adding a cornerback into the room to pair along with Christian Benford or even a hybrid safety. And that's why I continue to lean Jahdae Barron. I understand I go with this one a lot, but I really do like that pick. I don't mind one of those defensive linemen, though. I think that would be a really good value, too, for the Buffalo Bills. With that all being said, I love that pick of Jahdae Barron for the Buffalo Bills at number 30 overall, with his versatility to play in a multitude of positions for the Bills, and especially the amount of injuries they've had in their secondary. On to the Kansas City Chiefs at number 31 overall. This is a very interesting pick because you look at the offensive line as a huge weakness for them in that Philadelphia game. But also running back was a pretty big need for them too after this. At least it identified running back as being a huge void for them. Another playmaker in that running back room is going to be something that they really need to keep an eye on. So that for me is where I'm going to go. I'm going to go TreVeyon Henderson, the running back from Ohio State. He's got the boost. He's got the jets. He's got those afterburners where you give him a lane, you turn on that crease, and he's gone, right? I think he is a guy that is going to give them that another playmaker in this offense and give them an identity in the run game. And offensive line, yes, it was a huge problem for them. I think they're going to figure some of those things out in the offseason. They don't have the tons of money, but I do think that people are going to line up to play for Kansas City on that offensive line. So in this draft, I'm going to go in this department. A lot of offensive linemen are off the board too. So that's why I'm leaning going with a guy like Travion Henderson, get their running back room so that way they can actually have a run game, right? And I understand the Eagles did a great job stopping the run. So even when they, gave Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco the ball, there wasn't a whole ton of room to work with. But at the same time, they just don't have a ton to be able to run the ball. Like, they just didn't run the ball at all at the beginning of the game. So having a guy that legit can run the football, get back to when they were winning the Super Bowls, and having Isaiah Pacheco and stuff like that, like having a good run game is really important. So I want to add some more help in the running back room. On to Philadelphia Eagles at number 32. We're going to do what Howie Roseman does. We're going to continue to bolster the defensive lines. We're going to add in a hybrid player, a hybrid linebacker, edge rusher, Jalen Walker, somebody that they can mold into just like they did with Nolan Smith. He's probably going to be a sophomore type of guy. So he probably is not going to be a dude that steps onto the field right away and is a full-time starter. But at the end of the draft, you don't really expect that anyway. But Walker has the athleticism. He's got that overall like mentality, that wrecker mentality that you love. And he just can mold and develop as he gets better with his hands. If there's nobody better than Philadelphia Eagles team to be able to develop these guys, Jalen Walker could be the next in line. On to round number 2, and the Cleveland Browns back on the clock. We just went after an offensive tackle / guard, Ariante Ursery. Might be more of a guard, and it does definitely depend on Joel Bitonio, but you get Hunter, you get Ursery, so some help on offense and defense, and a little bit of hybrid there, of course, with Travis Hunter. We're going to add some help after losing Myles Garrett. Let's go add in Captain Jack Sawyer, Ohio State University, close to home. He's going to be pretty happy to stay there in Cleveland. Keep him rocking Ohio. Let's go. Not too far from home. So I think it just makes a lot of sense to get yourself somebody in that room to help feel a little bit of ease to go along with Isaiah McGuire in the edge room. On to number 34 in the New York Football Giants on the clock after going Cam Ward in the first round. I am going to add in some help next to Sexy Dexy. You get Tyleik Williams. That is a formidable 1-2 ironclad defensive line to continue to build upon. Just get that defensive line, get those trenches up. That defensive line would be excellent with those guys, with Brian Burns, KT, and then now you got Tyleik Williams with Sexy Dexy on the interior. That's kind of my philosophy on it, just trying to build up the front as much as possible. On to the Titans at number 35 overall. We went Abdul Carter in the first round. Second round, I'm going to try to add some offense here. I think that we got to add some sort of help on the offense. I'm not going quarterback here. I'm going to go trenches. I'm going to go with the offensive line pick because that right side has been it's a glaring need that they've got to fill. So a guy that I like quite a bit for this team at this pick number 35 overall, I'm not going to force this or nothing, but I'm going to go with a guy that's going to play guard for them, and you can pick up a right tackle in free agency, and a guy that I think is going to stick out for them, Jedrick Wills, right? The former Bill Callahan. That was his first year there. He drafted him. So I think you go get a guy like Donovan Jackson in here to plug in at that right guard position, add some more run blocking capabilities and pass protecting too, because I think that Dylan Radin's going to be on his way out. They just clearly were not comfortable with him as a starter. On to the Jags at number 36 overall. And we're going to do the same thing here for them. We're going to add offensive line protection for Trevor Lawrence and more run game prowess. Tyler Booker is going to be an immediate upgrade in terms of run blocking on their front too. And he's also going to help them out as a long-term pass protector. On to the Raiders here at number 37 overall. In the Raiders' first round, we went Shedeur Sanders. We got quarterback. Now in the second round, I'm going to try to add some secondary here. And I do think they really need to look at bolstering the secondary. So I'm going to go add in somebody on the outside, somebody with some more playmaking ability too. And the guy that I'm going to add here is going to be a little bit different. Trey Amos will be a really good option too, but since they've got Jarkarian Bennett, who has more of that size profile, I mean, Maxwell Harrison, he's like, 5'11", 180-ish. And Harrison's going to be more of that playmaker, more of that Jack Jones type of replacement for them. Like, there's some similarities to his game, but I think he's got a lot more upside. And he'll get into the outside and help them out, get another playmaker in that secondary because they really do need it. On to number 38 here for the New England Patriots. With their first selection, I went Tetairoa McMillan. Second pick, I'm going to add an edge rusher in here because they need more edge talent. I'm going to go with Nick Scorton, the pass rusher from Texas A&M. He's a really, really solid high floor player. I don't think he's got tremendous upside per se. Maybe some other guys have higher upside, but I think Scorton is going to be exactly what the New England Patriots need to help get some more pass rush. He can play a little inside out as well, even though you got Keon White who can do that. But Scorton going to be a really, really nice add for them as a pass rusher. On to the Bears at number 39 overall. And the Bears with the first round, we went Kelvin Banks Jr. With this next pick, I'm going to actually do something a little bit different here. I'm going to add in a another element into the dynamic, like a running back room. You've got your Swifty, right? You got your element there. You're going to add in that more of that lead back, right? More of their David Montgomery. I'm going to go get Amarian Hampton from North Carolina, who's going to be more of that vision north-south runner to pair along with Swift, who can be that receiving element, be the explosive. On to number 40 and the New Orleans Saints here. I'm going to go get Colston Loveland here for the New Orleans Saints. Add a long-term tight end for them. You got Foster Monroe, free agent, or is he on one more year left of his contract? He may be a free agent. Don't quote me on that, pardon me. But I do know that Taysom Hill, one more year left on his contract. Juwan Johnson is a free agent. I'm pretty sure Foster Monroe is a free agent. So those two guys being free agents, they really could look at a long-term answer at the tight end position. So trying to bolster that up as much as possible. And then on to the Bears with their next pick at number 41 overall. I'm going to go get some defensive help here. I'm going to go in and just really the best available defensive lineman on the board here. And that player to me is going to be Donovan Ezeraku, guy that I'm a huge fan of. I just think he has got that ability to get after the passer consistently because he's such a lateral twitchy guy. His spin move, his inside counter, his hop step to the edge. It's really, really good. So you're adding another pass rusher in there with Montez Sweat, Austin Booker, and DeMarcus Walker. And then on to the Jets here, number 42. We need to add some secondary help, right? We need a safety. We could even add a corner. Trey Amos would be a good pick here too. However, I am going to add a playmaker in that back end. We're going to add in our Kirby Joseph, hopefully, for Aaron Glenn in this defense. I'm going to go get Xavier Watts, Notre Dame safety. He just finds the football. He has that nose for the football, and he's going to be a dynamic playmaker in that secondary that we just really don't have right now. Maybe bring Tony Adams back. We'll see how that ends up going. We'll see where Daryl Muji is at on that and Rick Spielman. But Xavier Watts, really high floor prospect in my eyes. On to the 49ers here at number 43. Let's go get some defensive line help now. All right, let's kind of improve that. And we're going to go add in somebody, either defensive line or edge rusher. And I just say you go BPA between the two. And I'm going to add in Derek Harmon from Oregon. So they go back to Oregon. They got Eric Armstead from Oregon, and now you go get Derek Harmon from Oregon. So we're going to definitely help out that defensive line, adding in another staple for that 49er front to get younger, get better on the interior. On to the Dallas Cowboys at number 44. We win Ashton Jeanty in the first round. Second round, I'm also going to add a safety in here. I want to add more of a free safety for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm looking for kind of like a long-term Malik Hooker. I think they've got some guys that can work into that safety hybrid box role between Marquise Bell, Wania Thomas. Those guys can work into that. But let's add in a guy who can be your roaming free safety, Malik Hooker type of replacement. That's Kelvin Winston Jr. He has the range. He has that sideline-to-sideline ability. And just if it weren't for that injury, he'd probably be talked about as a first-round prospect. And then on to the Indianapolis Colts here, number 45 overall. And for the Colts, we went Tyler Warren in the first round. I'm going to add a linebacker here, but Jihaad Campbell's available. That is an easy pick. It's one of the easiest picks that I've seen in the draft so far for me because Jihaad Campbell, excellent range, sideline-to-sideline ability. As a blitzer, too, he's going to be a big impact, too, for them. And with Lou Amarunu coming into that defense, I think he's going to put a little more emphasis on getting some really good linebackers, even though I think Gus Bradley did too. But you get Jihaad Campbell, I think that complementary skill set too, because Campbell has a little more athleticism than Jair Franklin does, maybe to be able to cover some tight ends and stuff like that. And then we go on to number 46 and the Atlanta Falcons. We went pass rusher in the first round, James Pierce Jr. At this point, for the Atlanta Falcons, here's what I'm going to do. I think there's two areas we could look at. Either a developmental right tackle for them or another cornerback / hybrid slot corner safety. That's really what I'm looking at here. Depending on what they do. I mean, if you bring back Mike Hughes, you could draft an outside corner. Hughes can play in the slot. So there's a lot of options there. I am going to go with a developmental right tackle because that is something that they do need to start looking at. Plus their tackles, Jordan Matthews getting a little bit older. Jake Matthews, pardon me, is getting a little bit older now. He's going to be like 32, 33. Caleb McGarry is going into last year of his contract, and maybe an extension's in the works. But for right now, I do think it would make a lot of sense to draft a developmental tackle. I'm going to go with Anthony Belton from North Carolina State. He is excellent at the Senior Bowl, and his tape also is a little underrated in general. He's just so powerful. The hands can be a little bit improved upon. He does get a little bit outstretched with his arms. Overall, I think that there's a lot to work with. He may not be the quickest guy or anything like that. stick him over right tackle. He looked just fine with his right tackle sets as well at the Senior Bowl in the one-on-one, so I don't see a problem with him switching over there. And that might be his best fit anyway, so he'll be your blindside protector for Michael Penix Jr. And then on to the Arizona Cardinals at number 47 overall. We went edge rusher in the first round. This is another team that could look at a developmental right tackle of the future. I'm not going to give up on Christian Jones. Maybe they bring in a free agent to help Jonah Williams out. I'm not going to go there just yet. What I'm going to do, though, here is I'm going to add a playmaker, another weapon into the room for Kyler Murray. Add some speed. I think that's really what they're missing. You got Maserati Marv. You got Michael Wilson. Let's add in somebody that can stretch the field. I'm going to go Isaiah Bond. I know he's had a big downfall this season. I can't all put the blame on Isaiah Bond. Some of his play strength is not where it needs to be. And you got to understand going forward that that's probably just going to be a limitation to his game. But he's got game-breaking speed. I do like his route running ability. And as that vertical stretcher here in the second round, I just don't think that there's a ton of risk with this one other than just straight-up injuries. On to the Miami Dolphins at 48. And they would have gone Isaiah Bond too, right? It's speed, speed, speed. There was, he's got the fastest guy. Let's go ahead and take him. But I'm going to go with some defensive line. I'm going to add some help on the interior of the defensive line. They need help there, right? They are going to add another pass rusher. Or just defensive lineman, right? They could use anybody on that front. You've got Zach Seiler, who is a really solid player under contract for another season, but they definitely could use another guy, another big monster on the interior. And the guy that I'm going to go after here, there's a lot of really good football players on the board, but I'm going to go with Shedeur Sanders from South Carolina. Maybe not the most impressive Senior Bowl or nothing like that, but I just think he's a very good football player. His tape is undeniable, and you let him develop and get better, and I think he's going to be a really big-time force for that Miami front. On to the Cincinnati Bengals here at number 49. We went Benjamin Morrison in the first round. I'm going to go ahead and add some trench help here. I'm going to add some offensive line help. A guy that's still available, that's still on the board here that I think would really help them out, whether it's left guard, right guard. We're going to add in Marcus Bowe from Purdue, and he's just got a little stronger, but I do think he moves to the inside. So you plug him in at one of those guard positions. Alex Kappa, 1 year left on his contract, could even be a cap casualty after this offseason, but Bowe, I think ultimately that's where he ends up on the inside to the next level when he gets a little stronger. On to the Seattle Seahawks. We went Gray Sable in the first round. I'm going to add another pass rusher in here or a cornerback. I think those are your two areas you're looking at. I could see them adding an outside cornerback because you got to think about that Trey Brown is a free agent, so it's possible depending on how they feel about Nehemiah Pritchett. But I'm going to add in some more cornerback help since Trey Amos is on the board. We're going to do that here. The Ole Miss cornerback, just BPA at this point, helping out that secondary a little bit more. On to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, add their second round selection. I'm also going to add another playmaker for the Bucs, actually. I'm going to get a wide receiver, and I'm going to add somebody with some size on the outside. You got Jalen McMillan, who can play inside out, play in the slot a little bit, but I'm going to add somebody with some vertical ability, with some game-stretching speed. Alec Ayumanor, he has that 6'2", 210-pound range, and certainly has, good speed for him, and he's just a guy that underutilized at Stanford because of the quarterback play. Is he the most twitched up guy? No, but I think he's got smooth feet and he's a smooth operator the way he moves for his size. And then on to the Denver Broncos here at number 52. And first round, we went Luther Burden in the third. Just couldn't pass up on that value, and he adds another playmaker into the room. And then we're going to add some help on the defense side of the ball this time with their second pick. I'm actually going to go with the safety here, okay? I'm going to add a pairing to go along with Brandon Jones because I do think that they need another guy in that second. PJ Locke, not a bad player or anything like that, but I really think they could use an upgrade as a hybrid linebacker, safety. I'm going to go with Nick Emanwari, but he's going to give them that size profile, the safety position. They do think they've been looking for somebody like a Nick Emanwari, somebody that can cover tight ends, somebody can play deep, and Emanwari gives you that ability. And they do need help at the linebacker position as well. So Emanwari gives you a little bit of a hybrid, especially with the NFL nowadays. You need guys who can play down in the box, as a hybrid linebacker. Emanwari is going to be extremely valuable if you're looking for that type of player. So we're going to add him in here to be that number 2 safety with Brandon Jones. And they're going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 40-53. We went Walter Nolan in the first round. Let's try to add a playmaker in here. Let's try to get a receiver. I'm going to go get Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. He's got that possession, outside, just do it all kind of receiver vibes to his game. I don't think he's going to thrive in one particular area, but he's got the physicality to hang over the middle. He's got the size to be a go ball dude as well. He's got enough agility and route running space to be able to create just that slight bit of space for him to be able to create an opening and whatnot. You're going to need a quarterback to trust him over the middle of the field, but Higgins certainly a really solid receiver. On to number 57 in the Bolts. We got Kenneth Grant in the first round. Second round, I'm going to go add in some help on the offense side of the ball. We're going to add a playmaker for Justin Herbert. I'm going to add a tight end to be a playmaker here. A lot of interesting tight end prospects. So we're going to go with Elisha Arroyo from Miami. Great Senior Bowl. You got to check out the medicals. That's going to be a big thing with Arroyo, but he does have the athletic profile to stretch the seams. He showed off that route running ability, making some safeties look foolish out there at the one-on-ones. And Arroyo is going to certainly add some more receiving capabilities in this room, which is desperately what they need. But with this next pick, we are going to add another playmaker into the room, all right? I'm going to add in somebody that gives you some size. He was the MVP of the Senior Bowl. The dude is just, he's just got those Puka Nacua vibes that you're going to hear a lot of. But Jack Bech is going to be the pick here from TCU. Get another playmaker that give you some more help for Jordan Love because the injuries that they've had, Christian Watson likely out for the season. So you bring in Jack Bech to be that third guy early on with Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. Those are going to be 4 receivers, your heavy involved receivers. You got some more rotation, of course, there. Malik Heath, Bo Melton, etc. On to the Buffalo Bills at number 56. First round, we've got Jahdae Barron. And in the second round, I'm going to add in a edge rusher here. And we're going to go and take Princely MYMLES, edge rusher from the Ole Miss University. I know, I'm just joking with you guys. Ohio State fans are like, what are you talking about out here? I know, but the Ole Miss University, ooh, we're bringing some conflicts out here. But add in somebody that can be a Von Miller understudy and get you some more pass rush in the room. On to the Houston Texans here at number 57 overall. First round, we win Emeka Egbuka. Second round, I'm going to add in a defensive interior stud for D'Amico Ryans. And why not add in somebody that is Senior Bowl riser, Darius Alexander Toledo. He is way more athletic than you think he is, and he's stronger than you think he is. He consistently, he was going against the edge and beating those guys. He was winning on anywhere he went up against nose, 3-tech, 5-tech, he was winning them all. Really, really dynamic. He was great in the practices too. Darius Alexander, one of the biggest risers, maybe in the entire Senior Bowl. And I think he could even go higher than that. On to the Carolina Panthers now. First round, we have Mason Graham. Now we got to add in a playmaker, another playmaker in here. I think that's very much in the cards for this team. I'm going to go add in Xavier Restrepo from Miami Hurricane. Kind of be your long-term Adam Thielen slot weapon for Bryce Young. He just wins in those 10 to 15 yard area, 5 to 15 yard areas at such a high level with that quick twitch to his game and explosion out of his breaks. On to the Baltimore Ravens at 59, and we went Malachi Starks in the first round. 2 areas I'm focusing in on here. Either interior of the defensive line, I think they need to bolster that up, or I think a wide receiver or another weapon or offensive line, right? Those are the 3 areas to look at, right? I can't count. But I'm going to add in some offensive line help because I do think that is an area that they need to be looking at. Ronnie Stanley, will he come back? That's a very interesting question and something we'll have to monitor. With that being said, though, I'm going to go ahead and Emory Jones because, hey, Emory Jones can play guard, can play tackle. I think he can hang at tackle, though. You put him at right tackle, and Roger Rosengarten's already said, hey, look, I'm a left tackle. So Emory Jones gives you for whether he plays guard, whether he plays tackle. They figured that out depending if Ronnie Stanley is back or not. I'm just trying to add some sort of offensive line in there. On the Detroit Lions at number 60, and with their first move, remember, you got Myles Garrett, so it doesn't show up on here, but Myles Garrett was their first pick. And with their second pick, I'm going to go offensive line, so I'm going to go get some help on that interior. Graham Glasgow did struggle, especially at the end of the season, so I want to make sure we're trying to upgrade that offensive line. So the guy that I'm going to go after here is Jonas Savanaia, offensive lineman from Arizona. I think he moves to the inside where he looked way better in the one-on-ones on the inside. He struggled a bit at tackle. So you move him inside. He's got that play strength. He's got that run blocking mentality. He got all the grit you look for. So he's going to plug into one of those guard positions. Even if Ken Zeitler's back, you're going to need more help. And I would love it if just Graham Glasgow's more of a backup swingman for them. And I will say Christian Mahogany, keep an eye. I think he'll be the right guard of the future, but that left guard of the future is still opening. And they did draft, what's his name? They trade up for him, Giovanni Manu. They trade up for him in the 4th round. We'll keep an eye out on him, too. He could be someone that they could see as a long-term replacement there as well. But I still want to add to it, make sure we're bolstering those trenches. And then on to the Washington Commanders here at number 61 overall. In the first round, we went after wide receiver Matthew Golden. Now, I do want to continue to add edge. There's a lot of areas that they could go in. The Washington Commanders are so tough because we got to really see what happens in free agency. I could see linebacker being a big need for them, and there's some good ones on the board. You got Carson Swessinger. You got guys like Chris Paul, and you go down the list here, Barrett Carter, etc. I think would be great picks for them here. But I am going to go and get some defensive help since we went offense in the first round. I'm torn. Landon Jackson's a good player. I mean, he got better and better as the week went on. I think JT Tuimola would be a really good pick. I think that Kyle Kennard would be a really good pick. Now, I'm going to go with a little more speed to be a complementary piece to go along there with Dorrance Armstrong. So we're going to go Kyle Kennard. I just like his explosion and his burst off the edge. On to the Buffalo Bills here at number 62. And the Bills, I'm going to go with the offensive pick here because we have gone 2 defensive picks. So I want to try to find some sort of help on the offense side of the ball. I'm still going to add another playmaker in here because I do think they're missing a little more juice in the room, right? They need somebody with a little more wiggle, a little more shake, and some deep speed. I'm going to go with Jalen Noel. I like Jalen Noel, and I've talked about this. I almost sometimes wonder if Jalen Noel is a little bit better of a prospect than Jaden Higgins. I mean, Higgins is really good, and I feel better about his floor than Jalen Noel. Noel is a smaller guy, but man, I think he can hang. I really do. After watching him too at the Senior Bowl, the one-on-ones, he's silky smooth. He's really good off the line. He can handle press coverage. He catches. He's a reliable catcher too. I like Noel a lot, and he certainly has some speed. He was over 20 miles an hour on the GPS continuously, like on multiple reps. On to the Bills here at the Kansas City Chiefs here at number 63. Penultimate pick here. We went first round, Travion Henderson. Second round, I'm going to try a interior guy to go along with Chris Jones, and there's some really good ones in this class. I'm going to go with Omar Norman Lott, pass rusher, Tennessee. He's going to give them some more juice on there. And if you lose Tayshawn Wharton, who's been a really good player for them, I think that Omar Norman Lott can help fill some of those challenges early on. You could bring back a Mike Pennell on the cheap, too, to be more of a run stopper. That's not really their issue. On to the final pick here in the Philadelphia Eagles first round, we went Jalen Walker, edge rusher, hybrid linebacker, could play a little bit of both. Zach Bond, you got to re-sign Zach Bond, unbelievable. But with this one here and the final pick of this 2-round mock draft, we are going to go on the offense side of the ball. I'm going to go offensive line, and I'm going to try to find that developmental tackle of the future, and that is going to be Cameron Williams, the Texas tackle. He can develop there behind Lane Johnson, and you know they love those big offensive linemen, man. They have the biggest offensive line in Super Bowl in like history, basically. So, I mean, their offense line, tremendous. It's been a huge, huge plus for Howie Roseman. Go back to the trenches. It's just what works. And that's it here for the draft. Let's go ahead and recap everything up, or if you want to just straight up skip to this and see what your team got from the beginning of the draft, welcome in. Hi, what's going on? I hope you're having a cool day. But anyway, I totally get it. Time's crazy and whatnot. You got a lot of things to do out there, I'm sure, with work and etc. So I totally understand if you need to skip and see what's going on. Sorry if I'm going a little fast there, but we go into the second round, and I'll try to slow it down a little bit for you. But yeah, man, let me know what you think. Agree or disagree. What would you do differently for your team? There's just so many different options and whatnot. A free agency coming up in March is going to really affect things. Can't wait for the Combine, too. That's coming up here in just a few weeks. So we got Combine next. That's the next big thing for the NFL. Hope you guys have a good one, though. My name's G Sling. I'm doing my thing. I'll talk to you later.